Ladies and gentlemen, huge story. Elon Musk might join or team up with a private equity firm. A source familiar with the matter tells Yahoo Finance that Apollo Global Management, the parent company of Yahoo Finance, is weighing options to provide financing to potential suitors for a deal to take Twitter private. Obviously, Elon Musk will be the person quarterbacking this whole thing. So Musk has stated that it's reported Fox News setting up a move for Twitter within 10 days. He's willing to invest up to $15 billion of his own cash. He already owns $9.1 billion. He's using Morgan Stanley to raise an additional $10 billion. And there's a private equity firm that runs Yahoo Finance. A source familiar with Yahoo Finance that Apollo Global Management, the parent company of Yahoo Finance, is also willing to help Elon Musk. Now, there's all this negative coverage. Time magazine has a very bizarre article. Elon Musk should have been stopped long ago. I wonder if Time magazine and CNN and others know of Dianne Feinstein's stock trades, or Richard Burr's stock trades, or Kelly Loeffler, or Nancy Pelosi. These are clear, at least with Feinstein and Richard Burr, clear-cut, like there was a classified briefing before March of 2020, and then they sold right before all the wonderful, morally superior experts and liberal Democrats and adults in the room said we need to tank and end economic activity as we know it, leading to what I predicted and what I talked about in my Federalist article below. A stock market crash that we're going to see, and I have a very, very important stock market crash channel segment. Margin requirements are going to be very different in September of 2022 for hedge funds. Hedge funds around the world, not just the U.S. They're going to need to have more capital. They're not going to be able to trade as much on borrowed money. And it's a huge, huge deal. And I talk about that in the Stock Market Crash channel. Huge deal. Okay, that's in addition to the interest rates going up, the Fed raising interest rates, inflation going through the roof. It's not stopping. Okay, they said it was temporary, and now they say, well, yes, we've reached peak inflation. No, it's going to continue to go up. And energy prices are going to continue to go up. And we're heading into a recession. Elon Musk predicted that. And I talk about that in my Federalist article and all those. Basically, read that article below in the pinned comment. I wrote it in October of last year. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a serious, really amazing, amazing. It's an amazing topic because you have these people who, and the hedge fund issue. I mean, you're going to see collapse, like hedge funds collapse. There's about 4 that either collapsed or are no longer doing business within the past year. So when I talk about that in my latest segment in the Stock Market Crash channel, please go ahead and watch that. That's below in the pinned comment. It's phase 6 of initial margin requirements, and this affects every hedge fund and every investment bank throughout the planet later this year. That could be also, perhaps, what Elon Musk is looking at. Later this year, we're going to see a devastating economic decline, collapse, recession, almost certain stock market crash, and you're going to see hedge funds. They're not going to be able to borrow as much money, and they're going to need more capital. And how they raise this capital to justify their margin debt, nobody knows. I talk about that in the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment. They don't want Elon Musk, and hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want Elon Musk to own Twitter because they believe that free speech, or they believe that ideas that run contrary to the mainstream, let's say it's Hunter's laptop, a story that was reported on, and the New York Post broke the story. The Daily Mail also broke numerous stories pertaining to Hunter, Joe's son, his laptop. Okay, we couldn't talk about that. If you asked a New York Times or Washington Post or CNN or MSNBC contributor or a wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrat, they'll say, well, it wasn't important. It wasn't important because it showed corruption on their side. Not only did it show corruption, but there were emails, incriminating messages that I talk about on this channel. It's public record. How can you use your influence on the company's behalf? And then you have Democratic donors talking about how Hunter travels with his dad and is well connected in Europe and in the highest echelons within China. And yes, he does have influence in the United States government, even though the narrative is, he's not part of the government. Okay, those emails show a different story. And if you read those emails, which the wonderful Democratic Party voters and loyalists don't read, you'll realize that there's massive corruption. If you think Trump is corrupt, well, he's been investigated. They found nothing. They have his tax returns. They have text messages from 2 years ago. They have nothing. Like nothing. New York has basically ended its investigations and probes, but, they still continue to try to torment Trump. They can't find anything on Trump. It's been a year and a half since he's left office. And they accused him of working as a Russian puppet or, being installed by the Kremlin. Then they complain about Trump and his inability to accept results. Now, Elon Musk knows, 7 minutes in, he knows that they're going to use Twitter against him. There's a Time magazine article that talks about, how they're SEC is investigating Elon Musk. He's the richest man in the world. That doesn't mean that you possess a great deal of wisdom, but he seems to possess a lot more wisdom than other billionaires. And he didn't become the richest man in the world with SpaceX and Tesla and everything else he did by not understanding how to trade or how to run a business or, how to make financial transactions. The SEC, FINRA, all these regulatory bodies are letting people get away with endless crimes. Or at best, they're letting people get away with just all this corrupt financial activity, but they're focusing on Elon Musk now because they don't want him to allow Twitter to be a public forum, a true public forum. Okay? Twitter suspended the New York Post's account when it suited the Democratic Party because a bunch of former intel officials loyal to either the Democratic Party or the Never Trump Republicans said, this is disinformation from the Kremlin. Then we found out that Clapper, surprise, surprise, was lying. As usual, he lied under oath. Then he fabricated and helped fabricate the whole Trump-Russia nonsense. But the Steele dossier wasn't against Twitter guidelines. Completely fabricated, a complete hoax, a fantasy, complete garbage, but Twitter did not, that was just fine. BuzzFeed was not suspended. BuzzFeed definitely, and every other publication, they were allowed to talk about the Steele dossier and every baseless claim against Trump. But God forbid you actually find emails, just like when CNN, when Chris Cuomo, remember, he said, you can't read the DNC emails. Okay, this is the mentality of these people. And then you have this absurd mentality on the left saying, well, if somebody, I've heard this before I was watching one left-leaning YouTuber, and he's like, well, if somebody told you to poop if somebody told a whole bunch of people or the world to start pooping in swimming pools, well, then people will poop in swimming pools. It's like, no, I wouldn't. You wouldn't if you're watching this. We have critical thinking skills, or we have free will, and we have basic logic. The merits of an argument win out. That's why they need to, when they say it's a consensus, it's a fabricated, everything is a fabricated consensus because any dissent is marginalized, disparaged, demeaned, and they want literally anyone who gives in a dissenting opinion to be homeless. They don't want that person to feed their families, or that's why they go after, economically, they go after anyone who disagrees with the mainstream Democratic Party view. And it's the Democratic Party view. It's not just like reality or mainstream. Is one political party dictating and deciding what everyone can think. And if you think differently, you are linked to bigoted, Putin-loving, horrible monsters who believe in conspiratorial nonsense. As they believe that Trump was installed by the Kremlin and that he cleared Lafayette Square, not true, and that he called people fine people, horrible people fine people, not true. Within the transcripts, he literally condemns them. And that Trump Jr. was notified of the DNC emails, not true. And that his tax returns were the holy grail of corruption, not true. They found nothing. And that he inflated his net worth, not true. And a whole bunch of things about Trump. I mean, endless. And the only thing they have on Trump are lies and deceit. And his personality. They don't like his personality. That's the only critique they can actually make. They don't like his personality. Other than that, they have nothing on Trump. But if they actually investigated Hunter's emails, actually read all of them, the corruption of, Dianne Feinstein's stock trades right before the country ended economic activity, selling right after a classified briefing, well, then you'd find out that, if they treated their side in the manner they treat Trump, you'd see far more convictions than the lieutenant governor of New York, convicted, indicted, a Democratic donor now in prison for decades because of a heinous crime that he committed, mega donor. I mean, you could type in, there's like 10, 11, just with a quick Google search of Democrats indicted, arrested. You can't find the same number with Republicans, and if you do, you won't find an Arizona state senator, Democrat, also indicted of the most horrendous, despicable activity. So, again, the people who believe the myths and hoaxes and absurd, fake news nonsense, they're the ones who complain most about not being able to censor and suppress and control dialogue, speech, debate, and discourse. They don't want Elon Musk, and Elon Musk knows that Twitter is going to be used against him. Twitter is a dystopian nightmare. A cyber nightmare, a cauldron of angst and contempt and disdain for one another. It's a place you can argue with somebody for the whole day without ever meeting them, without ever knowing them, but you can waste your entire day arguing with somebody. It's a place where fake and phony profiles can go and try to torment or insult other people as they complain about how Trump insults people. It is the worst digital nightmare. It's a scourge upon humanity. Twitter is. It really is. And I don't say this. That's not hyperbole. It is a digital cyber scourge upon humanity. There's nothing good that comes from Twitter. Nothing. You get zero context. There's no way it's used by people, and the same people who say, oh my God, it's not being used to cancel others. You just want to say bad things. Like, no, I don't want to say any bad things. I'm not on Twitter. I don't have a Twitter account. I haven't been on Twitter in 3 years plus, or Facebook. It's a place where just people get in arguments, but it's also a place where news and emotion can be manufactured. Just like you would turn on a garden hose and water would rush out of the hose. Twitter sprays emotion the way water would be sprayed from a garden hose. It's a way for one political side to spray as much emotion as possible against people they don't like. Angst, contempt, distrust, suspicion. That's why when they say Tucker Carlson is selling doubt, it's like, how can you not have doubt? Doubt is normal when you're going into a recession after the adults in the room ended economic activity and they're still obsessed over you know what after saying that they demanding everyone do what they deem as appropriate. Yes, doubt from mashed potato brains and Blinken and how they exited from Afghanistan. They didn't even abide by the Doha Agreement. Jake Sullivan also. Yes, doubt. Doubt when mashed potato brains Biden doesn't waive sanctions on Nord Stream 2. Yes, doubt. A geopolitical nightmare under the watch of Democrats in the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. Yes, Tucker Carlson doesn't need to sell anything. The doubt is obvious. You'd have to be a complete imbecile and a fool not to at least have doubt, much less suspicion. And so what they'll do is they'll focus on Elon Musk and they'll say, oh my God, he's allowing bad people to say things. Well, there are already laws preventing people from harming others through speech. When did Twitter start? Like 2011? The laws were still in the books. They were in the books then. They're still in the books now. Guess what? I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. You can block somebody if you don't like the person, if you don't like what he's saying or what she's saying. And ideas, when people say, well, you know what, this conservative and this right-leaning pundit has these ideas. If the ideas resonate, then defeat them with your own ideas. But if you need Jimmy Kimmel, social media algorithms, all of late night, all of Hollywood, Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, Time Magazine, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, The Nation, Mother Jones, New Yorker, New York Magazine, you have Los Angeles Times, you have every single publication, every single social media algorithm, all of late night propping up your ideas. You still have 73 million Americans voting for Trump. Why is that? Because your ideas stink. Look, we have record highs in inflation. Inflation was what, 2% under Trump per year? We have energy prices through the roof. Gas was what, around less than $3? We didn't have the geopolitical nightmare under Trump. And Max Boot found some way to blame Trump. But they're going to use Twitter eventually. Elon Musk knows this. He knows this. He knows they're going to use Twitter against him. Because Twitter is utilized by one political side. The Hunter Biden story is just one example. There was an example, if you can remember, there was a young man raised like $1 million for a children's charity. Some intrepid reporter found something he wrote 10 years ago, and I forgot, was it Anheuser-Busch or something? The Coors, or I forgot. The beer company then distanced themselves, said, we can't be with this person anymore, just because on Twitter, and then the reporter himself that found the tweet from 10 years back that tried to hurt the young man who raised $1 million, who was then who then the beer company said, no, we can't do business with this person anymore, even though he raised $1 million. That reporter also wrote something, years back, and then he was let go. It's the French Revolution of lunacy and liberal and left-leaning ideology. That's what Twitter is about. The same people. There's a YouTuber that one journalist went after this YouTuber, actually going to the college or the university where he was an associate professor, something like that. Or he accused this journalist, and she said she didn't do that. But still, and then that YouTuber says, the left doesn't cancel people. Somebody on the left tried to cancel him. So it's like, it's unbelievable. Like, they need Twitter to keep people in line. If they don't have that, then you have what's called like a free flow of ideas, debate, discussion, discourse, and the best ideas win. The best ideas don't win when you suppress dissenting opinions. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Elon Musk, God bless him. I wish him only the best. He is needed at this moment in U.S. and world history.